Hi. For many years I've been supporting people who are experiencing ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, POTS or similar syndromes. And having been ill myself for 7 years, I know what it feels like to have the illness and struggle with all the frustrations, including some of the injustices. So in this video I will talk to you about one thing you really must stop doing when dealing with a particular problem, and 3 ways in which it might be negatively affecting you if you don't make that change. The problem I'm talking about is how people react to you when you make a decision to withdraw from something that's too much for you, something that triggers you. So maybe it's like a family event, or going to the shops, somewhere that is noisy, full of bright lights or strong odors. Or maybe you want to avoid long visits with family and friends, or avoid speaking too long with them, especially if it's over the telephone. Maybe it's eating something, like at a special occasion like a birthday, so it could be like cake or ice cream, or drinking soft drink, coffee or alcohol. So we're talking about anything that you want to avoid doing because you know it's going to have bad consequences for you if you do it. You know it doesn't agree with you. So the question is, how do the people around you react? Well, perhaps they say nothing, maybe leaving you with a bit of an uncomfortable, awkward feeling. Or maybe they try to encourage you to do whatever it is anyway. And this is where the real problem starts. If you're like most of us, you might even start to feel resentful about these encouragements that people give you, because often they feel more like pressure than encouragement, don't they? So the question is, how do you react when that happens? Especially when it isn't the first time with somebody. And if you're like most people, you probably start explaining yourself, defending your decisions. And that is where things go from bad to worse. So my message to all of you with ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, POTS or similar invisible chronic illness is to stop repeatedly explaining yourself. You see, what's really happening here is that people either don't believe you or simply don't understand. And it's probably a little bit of both. Now, it's natural for you to want to try and fix this situation. But before I go into the 3 problems that this whole dynamic creates for you, let me give you a really important message here. Your desire to avoid these various things that flare you up is absolutely normal. Every week I speak to people who get this huge sense of relief when I tell them that there are others with the illness that feel exactly the same way. They've got the same difficulties. They also want to withdraw from the same things. Now, I know you don't really want to avoid all these things. In fact, you're undoubtedly really keen to take part in everything, to get your life back. And nobody wants to feel left out. Nobody wants to feel isolated. But here are the 3 problems that I mentioned that repeatedly explaining yourself creates. The first problem is that if you give in, you might end up suffering the consequences with your health. Sometimes that's for hours, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes even longer. Number 2, chances are that whatever you are avoiding might also be unpleasant whilst you're actually doing it, especially when it involves excessive stimulation like talking, lights, sounds, smells and so on. Number 3, and this is perhaps the worst problem that I really want to speak about today, and that's how all of this really impacts you as a person. So I'm not just talking about physically, but also mentally and emotionally. You know, it becomes all too easy to start doubting yourself or to feel bad about your choices, like you're copping out, like you're making excuses unnecessarily. It's all too easy to start feeling bad about yourself. That's not fair. You know, life isn't easy with chronic illness. It's hard enough to build any sort of confidence in yourself. And this dynamic with other people pushing you and constantly you not measuring up, it really doesn't help you to feel good about yourself. So here's my message: stop it. If you feel it's too hard to do something, if you feel you cannot meet demands others are placing on you, stop trying to measure up to other people's imaginary standards. And I say imaginary because, of course, other people who haven't had fibromyalgia or ME/CFS or other chronic illness, they don't really know what you're going through. And on that note, I need to share one more really important point about all this, and then a few additional tips. I want you to ask yourself, what is behind other people's behavior here? And why are they nudging you or pushing you? Why are they constantly trying to get you to do things that you know are no good for you? In my experience, most of the time people do this because they actually care. If they didn't care, they wouldn't bother with this whole argument, this whole conflict. Yes, you know, perhaps they don't understand. Perhaps they're not being as sensitive as you would like. But you know what? They care enough to bother having the conversation with you. They want you to have more out of life. They want you to experience all these different things and not miss out, just like you do. So the real question is, how can you change this whole dynamic? Now, I would suggest that instead of constantly explaining yourself, tell people once. Tell them how things affect you and that you're making strong choices that support yourself to feel better. If we're talking about a partner or family member that you're living with, agree on a code word. This is a word that reminds them of the conversation about you making good choices to look after yourself, and that you need their support, and that you need them not to question you right now. And if people around you really don't understand where you're coming from and are not responding to your explanation that you're doing this as part of your self-care, then simply seek to end all of those conversations in the quickest and politest way you can. So stay calm and kind, but don't engage, don't explain yourself again. Try to forgive these people. You know, the thing to realize is that you simply can't control other people or how they look at the world. But you can control the understanding and kindness that you show yourself. So it's time for you to give yourself the respect that you deserve. And hopefully those around you will eventually follow in your lead. One more important thing. I hope my message has helped you in some way. Please remember that you are not alone in your struggles. Millions of people around the world are having the same frustrations as you, even if many of them don't realize that they're not alone. So please support other chronically ill people and share this message that it's normal to want to pull back and look after oneself, and remind them to be kind to themselves, to put themselves first. You can do this if you like by sharing this video or post wherever you know that people with ME/CFS and fibromyalgia seek help and ideas. And finally, here are a few questions for you to ponder. So I really look forward to your thoughts and comments below.